Hey guys, I just wanted to say, hey, what's up? I know that it's Easter week. May not feel like it. The weather does, but everything going on doesn't necessarily feel like it. And with it being the Easter week, we're starting a new series called Worth It. So since it is Easter week, I want you guys to kind of think about some of your favorite childhood Easter memories. Maybe it was dyeing Easter eggs. Maybe it was getting together, go on an Easter egg hunt. Maybe it's getting to go to the park. I know we used to do that when I was younger. Or maybe it's just getting together with your family and having that family dinner and spending that Easter time together with the ham and the rolls and the potato salad and all those things that happen at Easter time, which for a lot of us isn't going to happen because we are still at home. So, are you feeling alone as we head into this Easter holiday? Well, if you are, I got some good news for you. When life gets tough, it's easy to feel alone. Like we're the only ones who've ever experienced what we're experiencing and that no one could possibly understand. And it's not just with this pandemic going on. I mean, there's lots of things when this happens. When life is getting tough, we sometimes feel like nobody truly can understand what we are feeling, that no one gets what we are going through. And that's really just not true. And in those times, a lot of people say, oh, God's going to get you through this. And that sounds really good, but it can still feel like we're going through life alone because we don't have that physical touch. And for a lot of us right now, that's what the problem is. We feel so isolated in our houses that we don't have that comfort of being around people, that we don't have that comfort of getting that hug that we need just from that friend to kind of, get us through that day. And so I want you guys to remember that when life is difficult, we might wonder, why would God let this happen? Should I just give it up? Is it all worth it? And that's what a lot of people are feeling now with this virus. They're saying, why would God let a virus like this happen? Why would he let so many people get sick? Why would he let so many people die? And they start questioning their faith and they start feeling lost and hopeless. Well, with Easter week coming, I'm going to tell you that there are some guys who probably will feeling a lot like that. A lot of us probably know the Easter story, starting with this past Sunday with Palm Sunday, where Jesus came into town riding on a donkey, and everybody was, with palm branches and saying Hosanna as he came riding in. And it leads us to the Last Supper, where he was sitting around with his disciples and his closest friends and having to tell them that one of them was going to betray him and another one was going to deny him. I mean, how do you think Jesus was feeling that? How do you think the disciples were feeling that? Jesus was telling them that he was going to believe in them, and they didn't understand it. They didn't get it. And then they go from the Last Supper to the garden, where he asked his friends to pray with them, to be with them, and to the point of when he's arrested and then taken before the governors and sentenced to be crucified. How alone must have been feeling. How alone was he when all of that was happening? And it's not just him who was feeling alone. Could you imagine what the disciples were feeling? Here, they have given up their lives to follow this guy. They've devoted all of their time to what he was teaching them. And just like that, it was gone. The person that they had devoted their lives to is now hung on a cross and dead. And they scatter, all in different places, feeling lost, hopeless, alone. Many of probably what you guys are feeling. Scared, not knowing what to do, confused. Like, how could God let this happen? Have I been really following a guy that just died on a cross? Is this God really real? This Easter, I want you guys to remember that comfort matters more when it comes from someone who understands what we're going through. And if that's true, then Jesus can understand and comfort us better than anyone because he understands suffering better than anyone. Even Jesus felt alone. In Matthew 26:37-44, it says, he took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. I mean, listen to those words. My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Those are Jesus's words. Jesus is saying that. Jesus is overwhelmed. I mean, a lot of us are feeling overwhelmed right now with schoolwork or with things with our family, our finances, or just trying to feel overwhelmed by the fact of everything that is going on. See, Jesus felt that same stuff. He was overwhelmed. And he says, stay here and keep watch with me. And going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, my Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. Couldn't you men keep watch with me for an hour? He asked Peter. I mean, do you hear that? All he wants is for somebody to be with him. Somebody, so that way he doesn't feel alone. And he's asking, couldn't you just stay awake for an hour? Just an hour? He says, watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away a second time and prayed, my Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done. And when he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. Again, how alone must he be feeling? He's there with his closest friends, and they can't even stay awake for him. So it says, so he left them and went away once more and prayed the third time, saying the same thing. And it's not only Jesus who was feeling alone. I mean, when life gets hard, one of the reasons we can hold firmly to that is because he understands exactly what we're going through, and he's with us every step of the way. Sometimes experiencing pain and suffering and doubt can make us feel far from God. But what if we decided to see that as a way to get closer to God? What if everything hard we face is an opportunity to know Jesus better? What if, instead of asking God, why did you let this happen to me? You asked, Jesus, when did you feel this way? See, a lot of us, when we get those scared and confused and lost and hopelessness feelings, we tend to question and doubt our faith, and we move further away from God. But instead of doing that, if we could just wrap it around and say, you know what? Let me make this opportunity to say, Jesus has felt this before. Jesus, when did you feel like this? And what did you do? And if we look at it, we are going to be able to experience probably this Easter how that first Easter happened. The disciples were all scattered. They were feeling lost and hopeless. They were confused. They were frightened. They didn't want to be associated with him because they were afraid of what was going to happen to them. They had no idea that in 3 days' time, they would find that empty tomb and they would be rejoicing because he rises. We know the ending to that story. We have that hope that we can hold on to. And we know that Jesus can understand what we're feeling because he had those same feelings. He felt it was worth it to go through all of that pain and suffering. He thought it was worth it so that way we could have a relationship with him, so that we have an opportunity to be in heaven one day. I know times are scary, and I know that these feelings are hard to kind of get over sometimes, but I really want you to this Easter to kind of wrap around that comfort that Jesus can give you, and to understand that you're not in this alone, that you don't have to feel like you're the only one going through this. You have people around you that love you and that you can talk to, and that you have Jesus who understands what you're going through and who's never going to leave you. He thinks that you are worth it enough to go through all the pain and suffering, worth it enough to have him feel so alone, because he knew what was at stake. He knew that this was the only way for us to go closer to God.